Hello class, welcome back to the Chong channel. So right now we're going to go over linear equations. So the general formula for a linear equation is y equals mx plus b. Just a quick review, sometimes they write it as function notation. So if you see f is a function of x, or g is a function of x, or t is a function of x, it doesn't matter. That's another way of saying y. And so if you look over here, m represents slope. Another vocabulary word for slope would be rate of change, constant rate. And if you look over here in pink, that would be the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is exactly where that line crosses the y-axis. And so the y-intercept crosses the y-axis, and it's also the y value when x equals 0. Now, the x-intercept, like the y-intercept, is very similar. Y-intercept is the y value when x is 0, so the x-intercept is the x value when y equals 0. And x-intercept, another vocabulary word for that would be 0. So the 0 of the function is called the x-intercept. So if you look at this graph over here, this is called the x-intercept because this is the x value when y equals 0. And this is again the y-intercept, the y value when x is 0. Now, just a quick review on slope. So just like there's multiple vocabulary words for slope, like rate of change and constant rate, there's many ways to see how to find the slope. Generally, slope is the rise over run, or the change in y over the change in x. And so to do that, some formulas are like y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1, but usually I try not to memorize this. I just subtract the y's over subtract the x. Let's look at this example over here, y equals 2x plus 8. So once again, 2 is the slope, and 8 is the y-intercept. So that's b equals 8. But the fancier way to write it would be a set of coordinate pair, right? So here we have y-intercept is the x value when, the y value when x equals 0. So once again, the y-intercept is the y value when x equals 0. And just like that, the x-intercept would be the x value when y equals 0. But to do that, we don't get it straight from the formula. We have to substitute y equals 0. So this is our original equation, and so wherever we see the y, we're going to substitute 0. So everything else remains the same, and now we're just solving for x. So the opposite of positive 8 is minus 8. What you do on the right, you do to the left. And so we're left with 2x equals 0 minus 8 is negative 8. The opposite of multiplication is division, so we divide both sides by 2, so we end up with x equals negative 4. X equals negative 4, once again on this graph, is the x value when y equals 0, and this is where the line crosses the x-axis. Now, just a review on some vocabulary words that you should know is that if I have an x, that is what we call the input. That's what goes into the system. Another vocabulary word for input is independent variable. Nothing changes the value of x. X is just an independent variable. Now, y depends on how x changes. So just like that, y is called the output. It's also known as the dependent variable. I hope that helps. Bye-bye.